Ahoy there, my friends. Maybe one of these days I'll get the stream to start right with. As soon as I finish the video, up comes the screenshots. One of these days I'll get it
I
right.
mean, at least you've got some cool, like a cool background going
That's
on.
true. That is true. I got a dope background. So, welcome to Star Wars Transmissions. This is our weekly breakdown of Andor. Episode 6 we're discussing tonight, and wow. What a freaking midway point for the season. Spectacular way to get to the halfway point of this season. It was a wonderful episode. We're going to deep dive, discuss everything about it. But obviously, before we dive into it, this is your spoiler warning. Get the hell out of here. Get them booty cheeks out of here if you have not watched episode 6 of Andor, because we're diving headfirst into the pool of Andor. Episode 6. Go watch the episode, come back, chill with Danny Girl and I, maybe even grab a drink. I think you got yourself, is that an alcoholic beverage that I see you dabbling with?
Can I tell you, if it is a delicious fall drink. It is salted caramel vodka with apple cider. Man, this stuff is delicious. Crisp.
Bro, you're not
Caramel
kidding.
apple.
That's dangerous. That's delicious. You can't even taste the liquor.
I know, right? We're just having one to imbibe while we have a nice little chat this evening.
I like it. Let's get loosey-goosey and talk about Andor. So, man, what an episode. What a spectacularly beautiful, visually stunning,
emotionally wrecking,
action-packed, crazy-ass ride of an episode.
It really was. I feel like I'm still reeling a little bit. Not gonna lie.
As we were getting ready for our stream, Danny Girl had to watch the episode after I had watched it, and getting to see her reactions to things that I knew were happening or I knew were coming was great.
I was gonna say I ran all the whole gamut tonight with the tears in the eyes, the head over my arms over my head, totally gasping. I was a little bit of everything.
I mean, do you need any other way to know that that's a spectacular episode, that when whatever you're watching takes you through that full gamut of emotions? Ooh. And is really a roller coaster ride of emotions? And that's how I felt with this episode.
It was like full on anxiety for the majority of it. Absolutely. It was really fun. It wrecked me a little bit.
What I loved about the episode, and this is a credit to the writers, to the director, which was the director's name, I think Susanna White, maybe. Yep. Credit to those involved with putting this episode together, because my thought was, all right, we're going into episode 6, and we're going to get this heist. The bulk of the episode is just going to be this heist, this Ocean's 11 solo Rogue One style heist, where it's going to be, the episode's going to open, they're going to be infiltrating the garrison, and it's going to basically be 45 minutes of just action-packed heist drama. And we got that, but there was so much more offered in that episode. And really, I mean, the heist was what? I think at like the halfway point is when things really start to go crazy.
Yeah.
And I love just all the exposition and the dialogue and drama that we're getting in the first half of the episode that helps build up to that climax of, there's a heist going down, things are going to get crazy. Oh yeah, by the way, things are going to go wrong, which we assumed, right. And leave you at the end of it being like, holy crap, I'm on the seat of my couch, just like, what the hell did I just watch?
Yeah, totally jaw-dropping. Great episode.
So let's dive in. Let's get into it. The episode opens, and we're basically picking off with our boy Cassian and the rebel crew. And this image had me cracking up. Just mean mugging Nemik with his like Nerf herder hat on.
Oh, I loved the hats. The hats were great.
Oh, so great.
Finest Donnie fashion.
And I love the conversation between Nemik and Cassian here, because basically Nemik is saying to Cassian in the beginning, like, I'm super nervous, I couldn't sleep. How did you sleep? You sank like a freaking stone in a pool. That's how quick you went to bed. And because I couldn't sleep, I wound up writing about you, not specifically about Clem. He's referring to Cassian as Clem, and he says to Cassian, that's probably not your name. But basically what I was writing about is essentially how the Empire, they do not play by any rules. They will do whatever is necessary to, the means justify the ends for the Empire, right? And to some extent, I don't think Nemik was saying that necessarily that's how this insurgency, this rebellion needs to fight, but we need to employ every option available to us. We need to use every tool available to us. He refers to weapons as tools. And we need to do everything that we can essentially to survive. And so this insurgency will be able to thrive and survive.
I just kind of love how Nemik really saw through through Cassian and was just like,
oh, absolutely. Look at his face here. Just,
I know. I'm still reeling.
I knew going. We talked about this. I had a feeling that Nemik was going to get murked, which is such a bummer because I felt like he was such a great character. He was super smart, super intelligent. You know, I think when you think of like insurgency rebel fighters, even outside of Star Wars lore and Star Wars media, usually it's going to be that gruff, scary kind of a fighter. And Nemik is kind of not that. He's scared shitless. He's kind of, I don't want to say an academic because he's not, but he's writing this manifesto. So he's clearly a smart individual.
Love how he also had emotional intelligence too.
Yes.
And like being able to, like I said, to see through Cassian and kind of just be like, I know you're not as bad as you are showing us. And I feel like he was trying to make that connection, and I hope, especially with the end with giving the manifesto, and really Cassian was the one who made the call to like go to the doctor to try to save him. So I hope that this maybe is one of those connecting things that pushes Cassian to continue with the rebellion in the future.
Absolutely, which we're going to definitely talk about the end of the episode, but kind of when you know, thinking about what you just mentioned and juxtaposing that to Skeen, right? And what we learn about Skeen, and now compare Cassian to Skeen. Like at this point, Cassian is kind of looking out for himself, sort of, right? He's not down for the cause fully just yet, but he's also not willing to just leave people hanging to do wrong for just because it means he'll be able to get money or do something that's going to help his situation. He wants to do things right. He has a good heart, and it's just he's taking baby steps to get to where we find him in Rogue One, which again, it's just, this is great storytelling. This is great writing. It's awesome that we're seeing in the 6 episodes of the series, we're seeing the growth in Cassian from the first episode now to here. And we know we're going to see their growth of Cassian from episode 6 of Andor to where he eventually becomes a captain in the Rebel Intelligence Service in Rogue One. So it's really dope to be able to see that. And I think you're 100% right. I think Nemik can 100% see that. He sees that there is a good person behind that tough veneer that Cassian is displaying with this motley crew of rebels.
Yeah, and I love how Nemik tried to kind of like push that connection with him, but literally as soon as Cassian made a comment about like, oh, you can sleep when this is over, I was like, not that we didn't think that he was going to be done after this episode,
bro.
But oh my god, I was like, that's the nail in the coffin. That's heart dropping. I was like, I knew it.
Especially when I watched it for a second time, I had a feeling when that line was dropped the first time, I'm like, oh god. Yeah. And then the second time through, clearly they included that as foreshadowing for what's to come, which sucked.
It absolutely did. And it just made it that much more heart-wrenching. Nemik, hardly knew ye.
We hardly knew ye. And as we're going along here, we see the boys, basically, they're separated now from Vel and Cinta. They start getting to get their Imperial garb on, and they're joining up with the garrison. Vel and Cinta are they're on their own mission to get to the garrison to get their plan and their heist up and running. And, you know, one of the things I really appreciated about this, I can't remember if it was the last episode or in episode 4 when Taramyn was introducing Cinta, or maybe it was Skeen, talking about how, yeah, she's a badass. Like, she kind of comes off when you first meet her as like sort of timid, but she's a total badass in this episode.
Oh yeah, Cinta was great. I loved how Belle was the one kind of getting cold feet in a little bit.
Yeah, absolutely.
I was a little surprised, and I was like, okay, and this is why they work well together. Cinta kind of gave her that push to make the call to get the ball rolling,
which we'll talk about for sure. One of the things that I love about this series so far, and we saw this a lot in this episode, is just really showing the insidious nature of the Empire. And I just kept, throughout the entire episode, I couldn't help but compare the Empire to the Nazi Party. And I know that's the whole point of the Empire. That's what George Lucas was basically using as his inspiration for the Empire, was the Nazi Party, and just seeing how they look so down on the Aldanians. I don't know if they're just called Aldani or Aldanians.
Sure. I know in the captions they called it Donnie.
Yes, that's right. They did. Yes. Right. So we'll just call them Donnies, and referring to them as stinky, like multiple times throughout the episode, that they smell, and they're basically talking about how they're manipulating them over the course of the years that this garrison has been on this planet. They've been manipulating them to get what they want, and basically slowly but surely stripping more and more of their freedoms away, or taking more and more of the planet away from the Donnies, to the point where now it sounds like their next step is completely enslaving the Donnies for whatever they're building on this planet.
Right, which is still unclear. I mean, I honestly don't even think we have to go back as far in history as the Nazi Party. Like, I think there's definitely very clear lines between even like people who are coming across the southern border, like from Central and South America.
Yeah, that's true.
And immigrants, and just people who are trying to, just the racist undertones. Well, not even undertones. I feel like it overtones at certain parts of this
absolutely. And
episode.
Yeah, and that's a great point. There is xenophobia is 100% a thing in Star Wars. There's a reason why Thrawn is essentially the only alien in the Imperial military, because they are the Empire is xenophobic, and you can, like you said, you get that sense when you're hearing them speaking about the natives from this planet, even just looking down at them, kind of almost like viewing them like savages, because they don't really, I think at one point they mentioned how they really don't have a lot of technology.
I mean, even like the passing of the pelts.
Yep.
Like that part of their ceremony. Like, this is their culture, that at the Imperials are just kind of like, they're really stupid and foolish, and ha ha ha.
And so these two Imperials that we see here, this is Lieutenant Gorn right here, our homeboy Lieutenant Gorn, who's helping the rebels. This guy right here is Commandant Jayhold. I don't know how to, I hope I'm pronouncing his last name correctly, Bihaz. And then this wanker over here is Colonel Pedigar. And one of the things that I love is we get this scene where our boy is trying to get dressed and prepared for the ceremony before the eye happens, and he can't get his sash on, and he calls out to his wife, telling her, they stored my uniform improperly, it's compressed, now it won't work. And she's like, bro, maybe you've expanded, dog. Get a little long in the waist. Which, think about what Cassian tells Luthen in episode 3, right? The Empire has gotten fat on their power and what they've done to the galaxy, all the resources that they've stolen from galactic citizens, all the wealth that they hoard. They're getting fat and content, and this is a perfect example right here. Just some random schlub Imperial officer on a random planet, not able to get his sash on because he's getting long in the waist.
parallels. I also love how he was just a piece of garbage to his
Oh.
family. No, I don't love it, but like just showing how he just doesn't care.
But
his
again,
wife and kid, and he's just like,
yeah.
you're not sick.
Again, yeah, absolutely right. I don't want to say dehumanizing, vilifying. That's a better word. Vilifying this individual, where like in the grand scheme of Imperials and villains, this guy's not the worst. We've seen far worse than this guy. Like, I think about this once they get into the garrison and the heist takes off, he's pleading with everyone to follow the instructions of the crew. It's Pedgar who winds up standing up to them and fighting back and getting killed, but this guy is kind of like meekly just acquiescing to their demands.
Right.
And he, even though he's kind of being a twat to his family, he's still not like being super terrible. But again, I just think that shows you that the virus of the Empire infects so many people, and that even someone who might not be the worst person they're still going to get infected by the power and the authority that the Empire provides them. And that's going to come out, and how they act with their family. I could also be off the mark. The guy could be a total piece of crap, and that's just how he normally is. But yeah, his son. I get the sense that his son probably didn't like him and didn't want to do this sort of stuff and would fake being sick, right?
100%. Yeah.
And the poor wife was like, she wanted nothing to do with this dude.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like I don't really have too much else to add to that. He just seems like total
schwanker,
total garbage.
Right, and you mentioned the pelts, right? Because here we are again, Commandant J-Hold and Colonel Pedgar are talking about the Donnies and how they smell, and there's, we basically have been placating them, allowing them to use a certain part of the planet for the eye, but it sounds like over time they've also had another part of the planet that they gave the Donnies access to. I think I could be mistaken, because whatever they wind up building on this planet, the sacred grounds will no longer be available to the Donnies because they're going to just raise it. Right.
Yeah. And I just kept thinking about Lieutenant Gorn in these few scenes and I don't know what J-Hold and Pedgar know about Lieutenant Gorn or whatnot, but like having Gorn have to sit through this day by day by day, like you can totally understand why he has such an intense hatred for the Empire at this point, because just they're awful.
Which I love. That I feel like this show has done so well. You bring up an excellent point. The show has really done a great job of giving us exposition to understand the motivations of characters. I think back to the Book of Boba Fett. Why is Boba Fett trying to be a daimyo? I have no clue. Still don't really know. I guess it's kind of because of his time with the Tuskens. Don't fully understand, but we fully understand the motivations of each of the characters in this series and why they do the things that they do, because the exposition has been spectacular. And that's what I've talked about this before with this series. I feel like this series is setting itself apart from all other Star Wars shows. It's not hanging on the Jedi, the Sith, Star Wars lore. It's compelling because of the exposition, because of the drama and the dialogue.
Yeah, Andor has been 6 episodes in. I'm still flying high.
Yeah.
This has been a great series.
And so we get this scene here where Commandant J-Hold trying to placate the locals, placate the Donnie by giving them the exchanging of the pelt. And look at this the Donnie leader's face here. Just utter disgust. Trying to mask that like disgust that he has for this man, because he knows we'll only be able to access this area if we don't upset this guy.
Yeah, I mean, clearly there's a deep hatred. They've pushed them away from the area land that they've held for eons.
I love this line here. Tell him our ghosts have strong hands and long memories. And I don't remember exactly what Lieutenant Gorn says, but he doesn't tell J-Hold that's what the gentleman said to him. But clearly just emphasizing the hatred that these people and the disdain that these people have for the Empire because of what they've done to their people. I also am just noticing this. Okay, you see this guy in the background?
Yeah.
Totally looks like concept art of Yoda. So let me pull this up quickly so you could see.
God, I'm impressed with just amount of. Also, how fast you freaking found that.
Bro,
oh my God.
Tell me that doesn't look like that guy in the background.
Oh, that absolutely does.
Right?
Who did that?
Who was it? Which I love that. That is so
great nod.
Freaking great.
That's definitely intentional.
Absolutely. Oh, that makes me so. Danielle knows. I've mentioned this a bunch of my in other videos. I love Yoda. Yoda's been my homeboy ever since I was a little kid. My favorite character. So that makes me so happy seeing that image right there, because that has 100% has to be a nod to that concept art.
I just want to quickly, in the folder of the pictures, the George Lucas and Yoda picture on the left. Can you just share that just to appease me for a second? Because
get this going.
It's like, here's my child.
George and Yoda. His child, his creation. Look how he's got. It's kind of wild to see photos of George Lucas not with gray hair. I'm just so accustomed to seeing him with gray hair and to see him with darker hair here. All right,
the little smirk on Yoda's face.
Just so great. Yoda's just the best. All right, we're getting off topic here, which great. I can get off topic from Star Wars to talk about Yoda.
More Star Wars?
Yeah.
Get off topic Star Wars to talk about more Star Wars.
So yeah, the Donnie, they hate the Empire, and we get a scene later on where this leader here just chucks the pelt that was given to him into the fire just out of disgust, which is sad, man. It's sad to think about. And again, I know this is Star Wars. I know this is a fictional universe, but you could relate this sort of stuff to our lives and how stuff like this happens in our world in real life, and how sad that is.
If you are going to sit there and say that Star Wars is not political, we are not watching the same thing.
Yeah, bro. It's called Star Wars for a reason. So now, let's move on. Let's start getting into the heist.
Man, it started kind of going off kilter real quick.
Real intense. And we see Cassian and the crew, they're getting lined up as the Donnie are arriving at the garrison, at the sacred place of their people, to view the eye. And Gorn basically is able to separate them from the rest of the pack. He tells all the other Imperial officers and soldiers, you're going to stay behind, you're going to watch the Aldani so they don't do anything, and they could be away from the heist when it eventually takes off. And he is going to take them. That's how he's able to get them into the garrison, is basically having them protecting or going with him to protect the garrison and the commandant. And as this is happening, we see our homegirl Vel. And you'd mentioned this, right? She's getting cold feet. She's freaking out. And Cinta has to calm her down and basically say, hey, they're waiting for us. Let's give them the call to get going. Get it together, homie.
I love how they bobbed in. It was pretty great.
Oh, yes. Although, my only gripe I have about this episode, and I understand it, they've got 12 episodes, only so much money. That looked very video game to me. I felt like I was watching a cutscene in a video game, which smallest of small gripes, like very minimal gripe for me, but still cool. Still, they got their like frog woman suits on with a little like propeller to get them through the water. Is that what it's called? The sea bob?
Watched enough Below Deck to know what it's called, Dan.
But yeah, I will say that as much as I thought that CGI there didn't look the best, I was like, that would be fun to have one of those things underwater, just pulling you along.
The CGI was all poured into later on in this episode.
Yes. And that's why I said smallest of gripes, not something that I'm going to lose sleep over.
Yeah. I love Vel getting cold feet because she's been such a tough leader this whole time. So to kind of see her have a second guess herself was, I don't want to use the word refreshing. It was just kind of nice to see.
Yeah, absolutely. and then things things get real fast because they get into the garrison, and immediately the crew pull out their guns, get the commandant and his family under gunpoint, blaster point, and Colonel Pedigar, like as you mentioned earlier, he's not for it. He's not trifling. He stands his ground, and then dun dun dun, Cinta arrives, being an absolute badass and just taking care of business.
Yeah, she was like stone cold.
Yeah,
love it.
Yeah, and again, I like that we got that moment, and whenever it was she was first introduced, episode 4. She was first introduced, and she's, watch out for her. She's a badass. Yeah, she absolutely is a badass.
Because I know, like, thinking like, oh, she does like the medic stuff. Like usually you conflate medics with a little bit more empathy, sympathy, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
To see this. Yeah, she can
That's
take care of you,
point.
but you know what? She's gonna mess you up if needed.
I completely forgot that. Yeah. I completely forgot that when Cassian meets her, his arm is all banged up, so she's got to bandage him up. And yes, in my brain I was like, oh yeah, she's a nurse, she's a medic, empathetic, right? Mm-hmm. Wants to help people, take care of people. Okay, she's not going to be a badass, and yeah. Harriman's like, no, she's a badass, and we totally see that in this episode. And I love this. Like, they've got Commandant J-Hold's family bound, and J-Hold is trying to tell them, like, dog, I can't get you into the vault. It's controlled remotely at a different destination, and they know he's lying. Lieutenant Gorn has given them the inside info. They know they need his fingerprints, essentially his handprint, and we'll tell him, they basically tell him, dog, if you don't do what we say, we're chopping off your hand, because that's the only thing we need.
I love it. And I feel like at that point, then Vel's like, all right, she takes control, man. She is like no business. Once going back to her getting cold feet, once she gets into it, she's ready to roll. Mm-hmm. And she gets into it. We then come to the comms tower, and we learn that the comms are down, that there's no comms, and communication is down between the garrison at this point. Essentially, the only communication abilities that the garrison has is with the Alkenzi Air Command, which is, I can't remember how many clicks. Did they mention how many clicks away it is? Did they say that in another episode? But I think they did.
It's on another part of the planet. It's further away, right?
52?
I don't remember.
They think Cassian had said something like 50, and now he's like 52.
You might be right. I don't remember. But yeah, they're at some point away. But that's essentially the only communication that can happen with the garrison is with Alkenzi. But we do, and the reason why this happens is because this is why the group had to split up. Cinta and Vel had to go to where we see the corporal, Kimsey, which that's this dude right there, Corporal Kimsey, I should say. He's stationed here. So Vel does something to jack up the communication within the garrison.
Some kind of sticky, I don't know.
Yeah, it was some sort of device. Maybe like
device.
Some sort of like tech that jams communications on a certain range, which would explain why Alkenzi can communicate with them. That would be my thought. And why they have that like analog. We see them with this here, that like analog almost device, which I think, well, actually, maybe it's not analog, maybe it is, but older. Cassian makes a comment about it being Imperial tech, and Skeen's like, not anymore, bro. So it's it's basically a device that can work around whatever jam the communications. And again, going back to that like Polaroid looking device that Nemec used, that navigator, right? Just showing that even though the Empire does not, the Empire has that technological superiority over the rebellion, they're still able to find means to beat the Empire, which again, going back to like Star Wars being political, the Vietnam War was absolutely an inspiration as well for George Lucas. And that is something that was something that played out in the Vietnam War. And we're seeing that here, how the rebellion have to use, I don't want to say obsolete technology, but technology that's not as advanced as the Empire to fight the Empire, and they're still able to succeed when they do, which is dope.
Going back to basics.
Yeah.
The basics that everybody's forgotten about.
And going back to Vel being a badass, again, she's basically like, we're doing this mission. If you do what we say, you'll be safe and survive. Your family will survive. If you don't, we will kill them. But as long as you do what we need you to do, and we are successful, you guys are going to make it out of here alive. And he kind of like scoffs or makes some sort of comment to her, and she's like, we're not the Empire. We're not you. Because that's what you would do. You would kill, if you were in my shoes, you would kill your family. But we're not like you.
Oh yeah, because he made a comment about how doesn't matter what I choose, you're gonna kill me anyway. And she's like,
Yeah.
no, we're not. We don't roll like that.
Yep. And they leave Cinta behind. Does Cinta make it out alive?
Hopefully, we'll find out. I mean, I feel like in this episode, yes, see her walking at the end of the episode with
Did we?
an Imperial uniform on.
Oh, I didn't even catch that.
She's alive, so we just don't know. Is she going back into the woods to try to hide? Is she? What's going to happen? When's her
Wow.
pickup?
I didn't even catch that. Okay, good. I was hoping she survived because
Yeah.
So I was like, I don't know the fate of Cinta. I don't know the fate of Lieutenant Gorn. We know Gorn gets shot at one point. I think on like his shoulder, maybe.
Yeah, I feel like he's not dead. I'm gonna go with we didn't see him die. He's not dead yet.
Yeah, I don't think he's dead yet, because I think what's going to happen is my thought is we're going to see him be interrogated and possibly tortured.
And maybe killed at that point.
Yeah. Yeah. Props to Cinta and Lieutenant Gorn, man. And Tamarin.
Just also the fact, like, if Cinta's like, yeah, the plan is to be left behind, and then she still has to, like, see her lover, like, leave, and she's stuck on this planet, and hope she gets out alive. Like, that's terrifying.
And she doesn't know if Vel survived. Like, she may see the ship leave, right? But she doesn't
Right.
necessarily know if Vel has survived. Which is so... I kept thinking throughout this episode, yo, you have to have balls of steel to do something like
100%.
right?
Yeah.
I would be shaking in my boots. Man. And then we got dropped down into the Imperial vault, the garrison vault. Look at these credits.
Also, I don't know what I was expecting when they were like, we're dealing the payroll for an entire quarter.
I was expecting like, and this is stupid because paper is really not a thing in Star Wars. For some reason, I was expecting like troves of paper.
I don't know. I mean, we had talked about this episodes ago. It's just like, oh, I expected like lists and names. I wasn't actually expecting the money. I don't know. Did I read that wrong? Like,
yeah, I did. I wasn't expecting money either.
I mean, I guess it makes sense, but yeah,
Yeah.
I was just thinking, oh, yeah, they're stealing records, and then I was like, oh shit, that's credits. That's cold hard cash, baby.
Cold hard credits. And they look like they're like the Star Wars version of gold, which I can't, is it Electrum, Bronzium? I can't remember. Right? Kind of like a Fort Knox sort of situation. And again, going back to what the Empire is up to, I did a video. We talked about this in one of our previous live streams. Like, what does, I think the Empire, there is a reason why the Empire is interested in Aldhani, and I think it's not because of its caverns. We learn in one of the earlier episodes, Vel tells Cassian, yeah, the Empire came here because they were interested in the caverns on Aldhani, because they could store stuff here. And that to me just sounded so fishy, right? And we're hearing in this episode the Empire is going to be building something here. I do think that we're going to see, well, I hope we do. I think that there is an ulterior motive as to why the Empire is interested in Aldhani. And I think we're going to find out. It might not be in Andor. It could be in another thing, but I think we may find out that there could be a nefarious, even more nefarious reason why the Empire is interested in Aldhani.
Yeah, I'm definitely curious to see what it ends up being, and maybe it's a little bit of both. Maybe they're gonna build something and then use the caverns for storage. I mean, look how many credits they dashed in this garrison. Like, I mean,
Right. We got this stack here, which it looks like they've kind of cleaned out behind this guy. There's this stack here, this stack here. Then there's on the other side. And this screenshot is, this was like the best screenshot I could take because there's so much like movement and shaking throughout the scene with the camera. This was after them. Like, this is pretty much almost to the point where Kimsey and that other guy, the other group of Imperial, not officers, soldiers, come and find them. So they had been working already for a good amount of time offloading those or loading those credits onto that
barely
freighter,
a dent.
and they made barely a dent.
I know. I feel like it was 80. They said 80 million got into the rotor or whatever.
So again,
the
like
ship.
a Fort Knox. So like a Star Wars version of Fort Knox.
I mean, there's hundreds of millions of credit there, and I know Vel said, I don't know, episodes ago, like Aldhani's basically close to everything, but just far enough away, or something along those lines. So yeah, if that's a great place to store money, that's a little bit central to everything, or store whatever nefarious thing you want.
And I love this moment. Yo, pour one out for Gorn. Whether he died in this episode or whether he's going to die soon, pour one out for our boy. Because I love this scene where Commandant J-Hold realizes, oh my God, Gorn, you're responsible for this. You're going to hang. And he's like, good, I should. I've served under you for 7 years. I've done heinous things. I deserve to hang. I deserve worse than that.
Again, just
big ups.
Balls of steel.
Yeah.
I mean, I also love how Gorn was very quick on his feet when they kind of came in and like trying to get
I love
Kimsey and crew to
did not waver.
No, he was awesome.
Just stayed, basically kept his cool. This is a secret mission. You have no part in being here. Get the hell out of here. But it worked. Commandant J-Hold to death. Our boy fat off the land heals over and dies. That's a good segue into, right, as this is happening, our homeboy, this is Corporal Kimsey, comms officer Kimsey. Again, the comms are down, but the rebels, they're able to communicate with that like analog comm device that they have, and Kimsey is able to hear them, and he hears, I think it's Vel tells Cinta, we're in the vault. So he knows something's up. Word get Alkenzi, they wind up finding out that the vault at the garrison has been breached. A light goes off or some sort of alarm goes off.
I thought the light was just his cover, Kimsey's cover, to be like, yo, I heard, because he heard something fishy. Like, I feel the light was just as a cover to...
Well, no, this is Alken. This is that different.
Sorry.
The air command base.
I need to watch it again.
An alarm goes off there saying the vault's been breached. They're checking in to make sure, like, is this an accident? Why is the alarm going off? Has someone breached the vault? They know what's in there, right? So so they dispatch the this TIE fighter wing, which oh my God, again, just how beautiful was the eye? How this shot right here, I was like, this is so awesome.
It was beautiful, and like the menacing TIE fighters and them just trying to shoot up quick.
Like, look at this, man. This is right when the eye starts. Like, how freaking gorgeous. And that, in my head, I almost visualed it like almost like spiraling. You see a shooting star. That's kind of like how I was visualizing it when they were talking about it. And this just like totally exceeded my expectations and is so cool. And again, going back to like Scuba Steven across the pond to get to the garrison, I'm okay with them saying, hey, let's use up our CGI money for the eye because this is so much better. So much dope. They're so dope.
So much dope.
And I love this shot here. And I could be off base here. I don't know if this was the intention of the director, but I kind of got a sense, because this happens at the end of the episode, right? You see the Donnie and the Imperials all staring together in awe at this natural phenomenon and how beautiful it is. And you see the Imperial soldiers just standing there in awe. You see a Donnie woman crying at the beauty of this event. And I just kept thinking about, like, so much of what the Empire does. Sorry, a freaking bug just landed on me.
Was it fly that landed on your forehead?
Anyway, so much what the Empire does is try to, I don't want to take agency away from people. I don't want to say dehumanize, because there's more than just humans in the Star Wars galaxy, but basically, you know, take the agency, take the freedom away from people, strip them of being able to be the people that they are, right? And take away their basic needs. And how at our core, whether they're aliens or humans or whatever species they are, everyone just wants to live their life in peace. And this to me was like an personification of that. Everyone coming together, just simply enjoying this event. Doesn't matter that they're an Imperial soldier or a native of this planet, just enjoying this event. And how, again, just the insidious nature of the Empire, how they have to draw those lines in the sands and have to divide the galaxy.
I feel like that just makes it all that much more sad. Like,
Yeah.
we have this beautiful connecting event, and then everybody's enjoying it and is like in awe of it. And then as soon as it's over, they're the Empire's gonna go back to being the Empire. They're gonna be on two different sides, and they're try to take everything away from these Donnie people.
Yeah, and like we have so many examples of seeing the Empire being terrible and being ruthless, but I think this series so far has done a really good job of just showing how insidious the Empire is without being like hit you over the head. You know, yeah, the Empire is evil. We're going to hit you over the head with it so you really know. There's been these subtle drops and hints of the Empire just being villainous and insidious, and I love that. And yeah, like I said, I could be off base with me. I have no clue if that's what the director was going for with the shot, but that's kind of what my thought was when I was watching this scene, because this happens towards the end of the heist. So now going back to the heist, we got our boy Corporal Kimsey. He comes in and he sees very clearly something's up here. This is not good. Again, he's trying to, Lieutenant Gorn is trying to get Commandant J-Hole to say, yeah, this is a secret mission. Get out of here. It's a top secret mission. You have no business being here. But Lieutenant Gorn keels over and shit hits the fan. And a firefight ensues.
J-Hold.
What did I say?
Keeled over.
Oh, yes. Thank you. Commandant J-Holt keels over. During the scrum, as we mentioned earlier, Gorn gets popped in the shoulder. I think it's the shoulder. I think he survived. Our boy Taramin does not. He gets killed. So pour one out for our boy Tamarin. At one point, it looked like Cassian was going to get jacked up.
He almost didn't make it back. Vel didn't almost make it back.
Taramin sacrificed himself for Vel.
I don't want to say they bit off more than they can chew, but there were a lot of factors that maybe it seemed like they weren't fully ready for. Yeah. But I mean, I guess that's part of the rebellion. You're not going to know everything.
Yeah. But I mean, dude, how many were there? 6, 7? And they stole 80 million.
Yeah, I also thought it was kind of wild. And again, this is not, I mean, they planned this for so long. And I just loved the utter chaos that ensued when they were getting all of these like workers in the vault trying to get all of these credits loaded up. And you would think even if it's like something hectic, you're going to have at least a little bit more semblance of like, I don't know. I don't know.
What's the line? The best laid plans of mice and men, right?
Yes. And it was just, they did a really good job of just showing how absolutely sideways it went, even with loading everything up.
Totally off topic.
Uh-huh.
How criminal is it that we have to read, we had to read of Mice and Men in high school as if that's a good book? That book sucked.
It was not that good. And I mean, I enjoyed it. It was a lot better than a lot of other books that I read
That's
in
true.
high school.
All right, so maybe I was just thinking about how much I didn't enjoy it in high school. Totally off topic. Let's get back to Star Wars.
Mice and Men is better than what's that stupid book? I hate it with a fiery passion. Holden Caulfield.
Catcher in the Rye.
Thank you.
I never read that book.
Yeah, don't bother.
I got out of reading that somehow. I don't remember. But anyway, let's get back to Star Wars. Much more fun stuff. The crew, after chaos ensues, they wound up getting on. So yeah, like we talked about in the previous episode, in episode 4, this is like a ship, a freighter on a rail that is then able to just launch up into the atmosphere and into hyperspace, which is dope. Super cool. And just, again, the eye was freaking spectacular seeing this here. And at this point, Cassian has he doesn't have a flight path because, and I heard you gasp when this happened.
Oh my God. I was distraught.
I was not expecting him to go out this way. And so essentially, as the freighter is taking off, the propulsion of the freighter knocks one of the cargo or the Star Wars palette of credits.
The credit repulsor? I don't know.
Yeah, you're probably right. It's the repulsor left. And it crushes poor Nemec. And he's out of commission, and they need him to use that navigator, that Polaroid prop that is the navigator in the analog navigator in the Star Wars universe. He was the only one that could use it, and he mentioned it takes a lot of time to master it, but once you do, it's an excellent tool because basically it's an analog tool. And they need it because during the eye, their regular flight, I don't want to say information, but tools on their ship
are not going to work.
So they need this like analog navigator, and he's the only one that can do it. So Vel uses what's called a med spike. So basically like a Star Wars version of
EpiPen.
An EpiPen, or what's those things that like you get stabbed? Is it an EpiPen? You get like stabbed in your breastplate. I think it goes into your heart.
No, but I mean, like an EpiPen is a shot of adrenaline.
So same kind of thought. Yeah. Right. To get him functional so that they can get off of Aldhani and get the hell out of here. And during that, Skeen, which now that we know Skeen's motives, we know why he wanted them to go to this place, is telling them, hey, we need to get Nemec help. We're alive because of him. We got to try to save him. So we don't know what world this is that they go to, but how dope is this? Like, how freaking cool does this look?
Well, can I just quickly say, from the last picture,
yeah,
what the heck were they going to do if Nemec didn't make it or if he got shot?
I don't know.
I know they were there for months. I know they trained. They have somebody learn the basics other than, here, Clem, here's this thing that maybe you should learn a little bit about.
3 days out.
Who was going to be the backup?
That's a great point.
Contingencies, people.
That's an excellent freaking point.
But anyway.
No, you're 100% right. And I think that's a great point to what your previous point was. They planned for a lot of stuff, but there were certain things that they didn't plan for extremely well.
And I think, honestly, that we're just going to go back to it's the baby rebellion.
The burgeoning rebellion, yeah.
Right.
The early stages of the rebellion. Oh, this planet looks so freaking cool. And we see our homeboy, Dr. Quadpaw. As I was watching this, I was thinking, Star Wars sometimes with their names can be like very right on the nose. Like there was that Dr. Mandibles from,
oh my God.
Or Dr. Mandible from Mandalorian. Let me see if I could find that image really quickly.
Mandible,
it's Dr. Mandible or
I don't
Mandibles?
Know. Doesn't matter. It was
Oh, I can't find it right now. But yeah, essentially a gigantic ant. But yeah, I love that his name was Dr. Quadpaw, and he's just trying to basically save Nemec.
I love though, like you're gonna call him Quadpaw, but then he has hands. I just like kind of cracked me up.
Yes, pretty hysterical naming. And this is where we learn about Skeen, the real
Skeen.
The real Skeen, the real motivations behind why he's doing what he's doing. And we talked about this in I talked about this in my breakdown of last week's episode. I did a video about Skeen and his tattoos. There was definitely something fishy about Skeen, right? We learned that he had 2 tattoos that Cassian knew about. One of them Cassian referred to as Cratehead. My thought was that is a reference to a prison. My thought is there is a prison called Cratehead somewhere. And then he has this other, and that's on his chest. It had like a barcode with Arabesh letters that said KH. Then on his forearm, he had an image of a hand. And you know what? Let me pull those up quickly.
I just love how clearly, like, once he made that comment in the last episode about how, like, Cassian was the only one who what those tattoos meant. So, like, I feel like, oh, I don't want to say realizes real or real recognizes real, but like, oh, maybe he's on level.
Yeah, so you'll see here, right? We got this image here. This is the great head tattoo, right? It's got that barcode. The Arabesh right here is KH. So maybe those are his like actual the initials for his actual name. I hadn't even thought of that until just now. Yep.
Number.
And then we've got this tattoo here, which Cassian referred to as by the hand. And you and I are both tattoo nerds, so we know about like tattoo history and stuff. And a lot of times criminals will get tattoos, or at least back in the day, criminals would get tattoos to signify like what kind of crimes they would do, what type of criminal they were. So by the hand could absolutely be a reference to him being a thief. And that would make a ton of sense considering our homeboy is trying to get Cassian to leave Vel behind, take the damn $80 million credits. He's telling Cassian he's going to split it, but my thought was he 100% would not split it with Cassian, that he was going to he would have killed Cassian.
I feel like though he was maybe trying to get Cassian on board so he could pilot them someplace.
Well, that's what he said. Yeah. I can't fly that freighter. I need you.
Sure.
I'll split that money with you. So yeah, my thought would be he would have had Cassian take him wherever he could so he could get somewhere else or get a starship of his own, and he would have murked Cassian. Does my boy have a New York accent, or is it me? Skeen. It's like you can't trust a goddamn New Yorker.
You know, I'm gonna go back and watch it probably after this. I was debating earlier if I should watch Andor again or if I should watch House of the Dragon, but I think Andor is gonna win. I don't know. Depends on how much well, actually, you know what? This time around, they're both gonna make me cry. It doesn't even matter.
Watch both.
I could watch both. But anyway, sorry. I'll have to pay attention.
I was watching this. I had myself cracking up because I'm like, does he have a New York accent? I'm from downstate New York. I grew up in New York City. So I'm like, maybe this is me just being biased and like imagining something that's not there. But I'm like, of course this dirtbag has a freaking downstate New York accent. And yeah, I have to go back and watch it again and see if that's how his accent sounds. But Cassian is onto him and just murks him. Puts a blaster bolt right into him.
I was a little surprised. I was on the fence. I was a little surprised, a little not surprised.
Really?
I feel like a couple times, like we've seen Cassian, like let's say go with the murders that he did at the beginning. Like that was when he was being physically threatened.
Yep.
I feel like this is moving. Like he wasn't necessarily physically being threatened.
No.
But he wasn't a threat to being successful.
Well, my thought was Cassian understood that this guy now is a threat. Because Cassian made a comment in one of the previous episodes that, how do I know that you guys aren't just going to kill me and make off with the money?
Right.
Right? So my thought is Cassian understands at this very moment, this guy is going to kill me one way or another if I do not kill him. Whether it's he sticks around and stays with Vel and I, or I go with him, he is going to kill. He's going to try to kill us to get this money. And that was my thought. And then again, it goes to Cassian in Rogue One and what we see him do on the Rings of Kafrene, where he kills that guy. I can't remember his name.
With the broken arm.
Yeah. Which I want to go back really quickly because I completely forgot. This moment here totally reminded me of Rogue One when they're escaping Jeddah, and the Death Star has just shot Jeddah, and now like the Jeddah is collapsing in on itself. It totally reminded me of Rogue One, which is dope. Loved it. So yeah, I think this is to help show Cassian is super smart. He's super bright. He can think on his feet. He's got street smarts,
which is what Luthen was looking for.
Yep. And he kind of called it. He kind of said that, hey, you may try to kill me and run off with the money. He called it, and he popped Skeen before Skeen could kill him. And Vel hears this. She's like, what's going on? Cassian finds a ship that Dr. Quadpaw had, tells Dr. Quadpaw, hey, I'll pay double what, I'll give you 30,000 credits for that starship. It's double than what it's worth. I want my cut. I'm out of here. Skeen was trying to steal the $80 million credits and make off with it. And we find out also that he didn't even have a brother. It was all made up.
I know.
Because Vel's like, he would never do that. And
like, yeah, he's a lying sack of garbage.
Piece of crap. And I love here that poor Dr. Quadpaw is like, don't kill me. I tried to save him. I did everything I could. And poor Nemik is dead. And although Vel doesn't, I don't know. Well, now that I say that, does she believe Cassian? Is she unsure? Is it 50-50?
I'm going to give Vel the benefit of the doubt. And I am going to, I think maybe if she's pretending or if she's saying that she doesn't believe Cassian, I think deep down she will end up believing him. I think she's too smart to not have had any doubts about Skeen.
Yeah. And again, pour one out for our boy Nemik. Our poor boy Nemik doesn't make it. And Vel tells Cassian, you're okay, take your money, but Nemik wanted you to have his manifesto, which is obviously going to help push Cassian that much more towards working with Luthen and the rebellion.
You want to know what's also like, this is, oh my God, this is making me tear up thinking about this. One of the last things that Nemik does is like make sure that Cassian has my manifesto. Like if this poor man is dying and he's thinking about
someone else. Yo, pour one out for him, dude. He really was a great character. An absolute dope character in such a short amount of time. And again, I just think this is the beauty of this series and the power of the writing and the exposition and the dialogue in the show. It is done so well. You know, we didn't really get to spend a lot of time with Nemik, but I felt like the time that we spent with him was super, super impactful and just done so, so well.
Oh, gotta take my glasses off.
Okay, homegirl.
I'm like, tearing up over here.
The markings of an excellent series.
No, seriously, getting all teary-eyed just talking about it.
And we then come to Coruscant, and now we're seeing the aftermath of this heist, because this has to be one of the like biggest heists, I would think, that the Empire has seen. I'd have to think my history.
First biggest, like
it's a big one, whether it's the first or the biggest, or even if it's neither, it's still a big one, right?
Yeah, heads are gonna roll.
ISB is now, you've kicked the hornet's nest. The hornets are coming out, and what's this dude's name? Major Partagas?
Qyburn.
Major Qyburn. Motherfucking Qyburn. Major Partagas. He tells his staff, you're not going home. Tell your families you're not going home. He wants every star sector and planetary emergence retaliation plan in the building, ready for presentation immediately. I think he says by midnight.
Which, first off, you're going to be starting stuff at midnight. That's terrifying in itself. Two, the retaliation plan. That's also.
Yeah, dude.
Oh, the Empire.
Right, that's the Empire. They're not going to, again, you've kicked the hornet's nest. Be prepared for what's going to happen.
Just thinking about how nefarious that is to actually have like plans in place and ready to go when.
A retaliation plan. Not like, hey, we need to plan whatever Yeah, retaliation. Absolutely. There's a reason that word was chosen. And now the Imperial Senate is learning what's happening as well. Our homegirl Mon Mothma, she's giving a speech in the Imperial Senate, which, by the way, I love that we're seeing the Imperial Senate. Like, this is just so dope. Brought me back to the prequels. But she's talking about the atrocities, essentially, that's happening to the Gormans. I'm trying to remember. I think, was it that the shipping lanes were blocked off or the planet was blockaded? I can't remember exactly. But that ties into Star Wars Rebels, where Mon Mothma in season 3, episode 18 the season 3, episode 18 of Rebels, the episode is called Secret Cargo. The Ghost Crew has to go and rescue Mon Mothma because the Empire is hunting her. They're attempting to capture her because she gave this speech blaming Sidious, blaming Emperor Palpatine for a massacre that happens to the Gormans. So we're seeing how this series could is definitely tying into Rebels. How we could see, I don't think it's a coincidence. We've had some stuff that ties into Rebels a few times throughout this series. I do think we're getting that connective tissue for a reason. I think so. Brace yourself.
Ooh, yeah, we are.
I think we are.
Okay.
Right. So she's going on about what's happening to Gorman. And the senators are not listening to her. A bunch of the seats are empty. A bunch of people wind up leaving.
I was just going to say, I literally just kind of did a quick count. There's like a quarter are lit up.
Yep.
Like, look at how many are actually lit up. Like, the lit up ones are the ones of people actually in them.
Yeah,
that's disgusting.
Yeah, there's not a lot there. Right? So,
senators, do your job.
Yeah, so it's a farce. We know that the Imperial Senate is just a farce. It's another tool, right? Going back to the what Nemec tells Cassian about the Empire will do anything. This is just another tool, another mechanism for Imperial control. And then we see our boy Luthen Rail laughing his ass off, which I love. Every time we've gotten scenes of his gallery, I love it. Just seeing the freaking the carbonite stuff in the back. There's another, like, I don't know if there's another like Sith armor suit behind him. You can kind of see it like right over here.
Yeah.
I was gonna take a screenshot. I'm like, I'm feeling lazy. It looks like it's a very similar but slightly different version of the other armor suit that we saw in last episode 4, whenever it was, 2 episodes ago. But just our boy, so excited. And you mentioned this to me, like, this is almost like nervous excitement too. Like, oh my God, we did it. Oh my God, we did it. Oh God.
That's kind of how I took it, because I don't know, was it a guy, like, I don't know, somebody was like reading or hanging out in the gallery and was like, hey, did you hear about that heist on Aldhani? And
that's like, how he finds out, because the guy asks him, hey, do you have anything from Aldhani? And he's like,
oh God.
Luthen's kind of like, why? Taken aback by that request or that question, and he tells him there's just been this big heist or something has happened on Aldhani. I can't remember exactly what he says, but basically referring to the heist. Luthen tells him, I'm gonna go check in the back, and then goes back in there and just this smile.
Right. And I don't think he thinks like, oh my gosh, it was super successful, or I think this was more of like seeing his nerves from last time. I think this was more of he was just excited for it. On to the next step.
We have a friend joining us, our cat Chloe. She wants to talk about Star Wars too. Oh man, this is such a fun episode. Such a great episode. I will, you've heard me say this so many times. You take this story out of the Star Wars galaxy, pluck it into just 2022 America, 2022 Britain, 2022 Europe or Eurasia. This would be a fantastic story. It just so happens that this fantastic story is taking place in a Star Wars galaxy, and it makes it that much more enjoyable for me. But it is spectacular. It is absolutely spectacular. Our cat is being ridiculous. She's climbing all over us, falling over, being a goofball. So any last thoughts about this episode?
God, I am going to probably go watch this again and just maybe cry a little bit more this time.
Yeah.
This was such a great episode.
It was a sad episode. It was a fun episode, but also an exhilarating episode, an anxiety-inducing episode.
Absolutely.
Beautiful episode
My
with the
palms were sweating
cinematography.
for like
It was
30 minutes.
just really, really great. All around great episode. And I can't believe this is only the halfway point of the season.
So exciting.
We've got 6 more episodes to go.
Gosh.
I saw the season is going to end like right around Thanksgiving.
I can't wait to see what next the next story arc or continuation of this arc is gonna bring.
Because it's been the first. That's a great point, right? The first 3 episodes were on Ferrix. They all taken place on Ferrix. The next 3 episodes were on Aldhani. So where is the next 3 episodes going to take us? Yo, what up, Storm Gaming? You're joining us as we're getting ready to sign off. But thank you for joining us. We appreciate you. I'm very excited to see what the next arc is. I'm assuming we're going to see this series broken up into arcs, which now I remember thinking, why the hell did they do 12 episodes? Now that makes sense. We may have 2 more arcs.
I know what they did for
they do that
the Clone Wars.
The Clone Wars, they've done that in the Clone. Did they do that in the Bad Batch? No, right? They were more like episodic and kind of like standalones. I don't think they did. I think Clone Wars much more arc based. They didn't do that in the Mandalorian.
I mean, I was just thinking Clone Wars, but
I think that's more of a Clone Wars thing.
Okay.
Yeah, it's absolutely okay. I love the Clone Wars.
We'll go back to Coruscant for a bit. I don't know. I feel like also maybe we'll go back to Ferrix at one point too. Like, are you really going to hire somebody like Fiona Shaw and have her in 2 episodes?
Well, I also think our boy Serial Cyril.
Oh yeah,
he's got to come back into the fold, and this could be a great way that we know he's gonna come back into the fold, and he could be a thread that Dedra Miro winds up plucking, or maybe not plucking isn't the right word.
From Coruscant?
She might dive into that lead and then bring him into the fold. But I do think we're going to see Cyril have more of an impact as the season progresses. Dedra Miro, we're going to see her come back in, and her walking skeleton of a companion. And I'm excited to see Luthen and Cassian again interacting with one another, because Stellan Skarsgård is great, and I want to see more of him.
No, I want to see him like in his rough and tumble self versus this a little bit more.
The pomp.
Also, I mean, we also have to find out what's going to happen with Mon Mothma and Perrin.
Yeah.
Apparently I feel like there's something coming.
Oh, absolutely. Oh, just so much. But I think that's a good stopping point.
Sounds good.
Love this episode. Love an Andor. I read some comics, some Star Wars comics today that I'm catching up on some of the comics I follow. I freaking love Star Wars, bro. I'm like Barney Gumble in The Simpsons, where he's talking about plugging Duff beer right into his vein. Just plug Star Wars right into my veins. That's how I want to take it intravenously. So with that corny ass joke out of the way, let's close up shop here. If you have not already, subscribe to the channel, you jabroni. Like this video. Let us know down in the comments your thoughts on Andor, your thoughts on this episode. I love hearing from you guys. I love getting that dialogue with you and getting your thoughts on Andor. And as I mentioned, subscribe to the channel if you haven't. Danny Girl and I, if Danny's not going to be available, I will at least be doing streams every week breaking down Star Wars if I don't have technical errors and goofs.
Tell anybody about last week?
So every week we'll be breaking down Andor. I'm gonna try. Danny Girl and I have been extremely busy the last few weeks. I'm gonna try to do some gaming, some streaming of Halo, some streaming of Fallen Order. I'm pretty sure I'm gonna start playing KOTOR 2 as well and streaming that. So yeah, there's gonna be some, and obviously we're gonna have videos published every day or multiple times throughout the week. So keep your eyes peeled for lots of fun Star Wars transmission stuff. With that said, guys, may the Force be with you and stay nerdy.